Hello, I'm Amanda Rayfuse, and this is Spark, the Upper Valley's new arts and culture program here on CATV. We're hoping to spark your interest in the arts by hosting one-on-one conversations that explore the depth and variety of culture here in the Upper Valley, to the amazing people who create and those who administrate, the artists who educate and the generous patrons who donate, the audiences, students, and consumers who enjoy and participate. Welcome to Spark. Hello and welcome to season 2 of Spark, the Upper Valley's arts and culture show here on CATV. We are back with a whole new set of extraordinary artists, arts leaders, educators to spark your interest in the cultural life of our community and how these people make our shared region an extraordinary place to live, work, and play. A couple of new things this season. You can listen to us on a podcast. You can also connect with us via email, and we will give you a little bit more information about that at the very end of the show. But for now, I am delighted to welcome to the show the owners of my favorite personal, one of my happiest places on earth. So we are welcoming Kari Meutsch and Kristian Preylowski, the owners of Yankee Bookshop in Woodstock, Vermont. Yankee Bookshop is Vermont's oldest continually operated independent bookshop. It opened in 1935, and Kari and Kristian became the 8th owners in 2017. If you haven't been there, you can't miss the bright yellow awning right in the heart of downtown Woodstock. And you should know that it is a lovingly, truly lovingly curated collection of books, stationery, gifts, puzzles. It's a destination for visitors, and it's a home base for locals like me. And it's one of the Upper Valley's most vital independent businesses. So a bit about Kari and Kristian. Kari is a bookseller to her bones. She has worked in 7 different bookstores in 4 different states across the country, literally from coast to coast. She's never wanted anything more than to share stories with people who need them. Growing up in Buffalo, New York, some of her earliest memories involve plumaging the stacks of her local library to get her hands on Maurice Sednak's Where the Wild Things Are, one of my personal favorites as well. And since then, her reading tastes have grown beyond just children's literature to include just about everything, but she holds on to a particular fondness for reimagined folklore and mythological stories. She and I share a little bit of a book brain, so I know whenever Kari likes something, I'm probably gonna like it too. It's a good thing to have. When not reading, she crochets, she works on jigsaw puzzles, and she's a photographer, especially using the inspiration of the natural world that surrounds us here in beautiful Vermont. Kristian was raised in New Jersey, where he found solace in spaces like the local library, bookshops, and record stores. And after years of city life, he escaped to Vermont to take care of his grandparents' land in the mountains here, living as a solitary mountain man. He's been a bookseller throughout his life, and when not selling books, he collected stories through photography and as a cab driver in the cities. His favorite books are often classics, but he enjoys new fiction, and in his downtime, you might find him practicing photography, listening to music, or playing his guitar. Together, Kari and Kristian are the owners of Yankee Bookshop, and they have more than 30 years of bookselling experience, and they have now shaped this historic bookstore into both a reflection of the Upper Valley community and a window to the world at large. It's not just about selling books for them. Their shop focuses on community building through yearly book drives for the Children's Literacy Foundation, pop-up fundraisers for Woodstock Community Food Shelf, their satellite BIPOC Voices bookshelf at Revolution in White River Junction, which benefits JAG Productions. And most recently, the Yankee Bookshop received the 2021 New England Indie Spirit Award, an industry award given out to individuals across the bookselling world of New England. You can learn all about what's happening at Yankee Bookshop, order books, ask questions at yankeebookshop.com. So I am super excited to talk to Kari and Kristian. I have held them hostage in their store more times than is worth talking about, just to talk about books, about what's happening in our world, in our community. And I'm excited to talk to them about the bookshop, its place in the Upper Valley's cultural scene, but also about their favorite stories and books, the value of the written word in our increasingly cyber world, and how booksellers, frankly, just make the world a better place. So welcome to the show, Kari and Kristian.
Thanks so much for having us.
So first of all, if you could talk to us a little bit, you've both been booksellers all over the country. What brought you to the Upper Valley and to Yankee Bookshop?
So we have to give a shout out here to my previous owner, my previous employers, Mike DeSanto and Renee Reiner, who own Phoenix Books. I worked for them in Burlington for 5 years. And at that point, late 2016, the owner of the Yankee Bookshop approached Mike about selling the bookstore to him. And he, fell in love with the bookstore immediately, but needed someone to come and run it for him. So Mike is the one who gave the two of us this opportunity to come down here and make Woodstock our home. So that's how we ended up in the Upper Valley. And of course, we fell in love with it the first time we saw it, and, up and moved everything about our lives in just 2 very short months.
This is something that we always dreamed about and thought we would love to do. Making it happen seemed impossible. We thought we were going to have to move to another state, to another city, start our own, or work for somebody else's. I think we just got to this point. We didn't know what to do with what we wanted to do and how to make it happen. When this opportunity came up, there really wasn't, we didn't need to think that hard about doing it. It was a lot of the what ifs and the maybes, and you're kind of putting your life into the unknown. But I think it was also if you don't do this, we're going to regret this forever. And it's an adventure, an opportunity. So we thought about it for 5 minutes and we said, sign us up. We didn't know much about, we knew Woodstock existed. We didn't know the region very well itself. We were living outside of Burlington. So one gray November day, we drove down, there's snow on the road, and we walked around the town a little bit. We definitely thought we could do it there. Seeing the bookshop, seeing a lot of the other shops in town, the Unicorn, the pharmacy, all those places just kind of really brought home that we could make our new home there. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it feels like you two have truly immersed yourselves in the community. I mean, not in the bookshop. I mean, you got married. Did you get married in the bookshop?
No, just down the street.
Okay. But you took a lot of beautiful wedding photos in the bookshop.
How could we not?
Right? Surrounded by books and all of your favorite things. Why would you not? Yeah, exactly. But it feels like you've really immersed yourselves into the community, like I mentioned in your bio, with all of the work that you're doing for local organizations, and in partnership with local organizations. Can you just talk a little bit about why it feels like that's a natural tie between booksellers and kind of the community building aspects of this region?
I think having worked in the bookstore in a lot of different places, a way that a lot of people refer to bookstores is that third place. You have your school that you go to, and you have your church or your organization that you're a deep part of, and then there's a third place that you go to, or that helps you feel more complete, because it's a community building thing that isn't a requirement, right? It's not a thing that we have to go to. It's not your job. And often, a bookstore is a place where community is built. People have conversations. You hear what's really important to your neighbors. You see what they're interested in a very, easy way. I know the kinds of books that all of my neighbors read, which tells me a little bit about each of them. And so, we see what's really important to the people in our community, and we're lucky here. It's a lot of arts organizations. It's a lot of things that we really love and want to see thrive. So it's really easy for us to find ways for the bookshop to offer support to all of these organizations that we see how important they are to the members of our community, and we want to help them grow.
Yeah, it's almost you're right. I get it. There's a bit of a junction point, right? In a bookstore. I know there's a book called "I Will Judge You by Your Bookshelf." I think about all the time as I look at my bookshelves, like, what would, an alien say who came down and was looking at what I've got on my shelves. And that idea of how people come into this place to gain stories and then to share with each other and to bring that out into the world, that it makes a lot of sense why that would be kind of a community nexus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So what do you think, why do you think it's important for us as human beings to have stories, to have, and particularly paper books in our lives, as the world continues to grow more and more digital?
It's certainly something that helps to bring us together and helps make the world a little bit smaller when we can share stories and share thoughts and share feelings, and again, bring people together, bring communities together, bring everyone together. So, stories is what has shaped and helped us to remember history, other generations, our ancestors, just life in general, art, culture, everything.
And the book as a physical object has existed for so long, and it's been that key way that we bring these ideas forward. I mean, I know personally, like, I tried e-reading. I can't remember anything that I read on screen. There's something about the tactile thing and holding it in your hands and feeling the pages flip, and that sense of accomplishment when you finish the thing. Like, the whole experience of reading a book is just so tactilely pleasing, especially when we spend all day on screens. Right. And all day, especially in the last 18 months, communicating with people through screens. You got to give your eyes a break. You got to escape for a minute. Another reason that I personally find stories so important is the empathy that we gain from experiencing someone else's situation, from walking a mile in someone else's shoes, seeing the way that other people are seeing the world. And so it's always been really important to me to make as many of those stories available to the people around me as possible. There's so much to learn through books.
Yeah.
Also just the timelessness of it all. You can read a classic book that was written hundreds of years ago and it still has an impact on you and others. And you see how many book groups there are these days where everybody's reading the same thing, and whether it's classic stuff or contemporary, they're reading it for a reason, and they're reading it for that connection, to improve their lives and to read about other people, the empathy, and hopefully, I don't know, together make the world a better place somehow. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, we laugh at that, but it's actually, I think it's true. It's that is the gift that literature and stories give us, is you're so right, Kari, about that tactile nature and how there's something about settling in and holding something in your hands that is grounding in a way, at least for me, that just feels like a different way of feeling in my body and in the world, that, maybe I still will read things on my computer screen and I listen to audiobooks, but that's a different experience than actually holding a book, which is just interesting to me. So what do you all think is in all of the organizations and in the events that you that you host, what's kind of the common through line that you would, for you, for Yankee Bookshop, what makes you say, yes, we will work with this organization, or yes, we will host this event, or, what are the questions that you ask yourselves in order to say yes to things?
Well, I mean, first they have to be, either providing or doing a good service for our community or other communities, or and the world at large, something that would benefit others, whether through education or good sheer entertainment.
Is it something of interest to the members of our community too? Is something that we definitely take into consideration, which is why, like, for a long time when we were hosting author events in our store, we do a lot of nonfiction events. We do a lot of history related events, because that's a lot of what our community is interested in. We're really blessed here because there are so many authors in Vermont.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't been hosting events since quarantine of last year. Just the logistics of it is difficult, and how internet access is here in Vermont. So virtual events have been difficult too. But we still get offers to do, hey, can you host me for this? Or can you host, I just found this great author and she's local. Can we please have an event with her here soon? So we do get inquiries from people all the time. It's definitely, it's a question of, is it something that our community is interested in, or that we are interested in and think that everybody else should be too? And what good is it putting out into the world?
Yeah.
Who is this helping? Is a big consideration for us too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what do you think people might be surprised by with Yankee Bookshop? What might they not know about the work that you do?
How busy we are. Everyone always says, oh, a bookshop. I would love to work in a bookshop. You get to stand around and read, and you get to drink tea, and you get to be surrounded by books. And yes, you're surrounded by books, but we're a busy little bookshop.
Yeah, there's a lot of hustling and bustling in the book industry in general. There's a lot of wheels turning, from authors, publishers, reps, the shipping and handling, the supply and demand. There's a lot involved with it.
Yep.
And then to have that all in a small shop in a small town is so so many wheels turning, and it all turns into our little shop. So yeah, I wish, I think a lot of people have the romantic idea about a small bookshop in a small town where you can sit back, sip tea, and read throughout the day. But we're pretty fast paced, and there's always stuff happening, which it's kind of exciting too, and it's challenging, and trying to be on top of the demand. Certainly our customers keep us in check, because a lot of times they know what is coming out, they know what's happening, they know the books that are coming out. So trying to be on top of that and stay ahead of the curves, stay ahead of the news and other trends. There's a lot of research that goes into it too. Bookstore life these days, it's kind of fast paced, and that's not just for us. That's a lot of our peers are dealing with the same things.
With the way that our industry has had to adapt over the past year and a half at this point, yeah, I mean, it's something new all the time. And the months ahead promise to be just more of the same.
Yeah.
I think,
Well, and I know how busy you all are, and it's funny when people say that. I mean, I have that vision too of like, oh, I would love to work in a bookstore, but you probably have to keep your door locked if if you wanted to have that life of just sitting and reading and drinking tea. Do you there was a few years ago, people were really terrified or talking kind of apocalyptically, maybe 10 years ago, about the demise of independent booksellers. And it sounds like you guys are actually seeing kind of the opposite. And what do you attribute that to? Do you think that that's a nationwide trend, or do you think that's specific to this community, and yeah, and what do you attribute it to?
it's definitely nationwide, and that's another thing that would surprise a lot of people who they think like bookstores are dead or dying.
Yeah.
Many years ago, maybe that was the case, but it's definitely bookstores as a whole are making a comeback, not just here, but yeah, everywhere.
To be fair, there are some communities where that isn't the case. But on the whole, I mean, if you look at our industry across the country, there are more stores opening every year at this point than there are closing, which is exciting. New England has seen a wonderful resurgence of bookstores, especially in the last 2 years. I do think that with COVID and everything that happened, I think a lot of people took a minute to reevaluate, okay, what are the businesses that are important to me locally and who do I need to support right now? We've had a number of people who, we've had a website the whole time that we've been here for the last 5 years. No one ever used it until last year.
Right.
And now, we have people who have told us, I used to be an Amazon person and I've switched, and I, appreciate you guys so much more. And it's been really interesting to see, because yeah, you're right. Just a few years ago, I was at an industry thing in Memphis, Tennessee, and the closing speaker was someone who basically told us that we were all going to roll over and die because Amazon was going to take over everything.
Yeah.
To a room full of hundreds of booksellers from across the country, and we all were so sad. But the opposite has happened, and that's incredibly encouraging. And I hope that we and other bookstores have given good enough service over the last 2 years for people to continue to stay with us going forward. I think we have. I definitely think we have. I hope it keeps happening.
Yeah.
And I think it's the, books and reading in general, there's another resurgence. They're things kind of work in cycles, the same as, like record stores and film cameras. I mean, they kind of go out and they might die for a while, but people bring it back. Books are held in high esteem. The book group, everybody from Oprah to Reese Witherspoon, Jenna Bush, the Good Morning America TV show, all those guys they all have book groups. So reading is, it's a community thing. And it's really cool to see that. Harry Potter, all these, there's a lot of great books out there. There's no shortage these days. So yeah.
And I think you're right too about what you mentioned before about a place where people can come and feel, whether you're would call yourself not a big reader or like, a prolific reader, that having an actual physical space with people like the two of you that make everyone feel very comfortable matters, that there's no judgment associated with what you're going to pick up off the shelf or
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
I'm
cool.
just psyched when people are reading.
Yeah.
if it's escapist or if it's, some nonfiction thing that's super heavy, whatever you want to read, I'm just glad that you're doing
it. Yeah. So just a couple of kind of rapid fire questions. What book would you say hands down impacted you the most in your life or helped you become the human being that you are today? So hard to answer with one, but see if you can do it.
Mine, okay. So obviously there are different books that correspond to different parts of your life. The one I will say is A Wrinkle in Time.
See, we do share a book brain.
because it's one of the few books I've actually reread, and I've read it at enough different points in my life that I get something new out of it every time. But yeah, I mean, that book more than any other has shaped who I am as a person in this world.
It also made me feel like science was interesting when I was young.
Yeah.
Was, in a fiction, that it opened my eyes to physics.
Exactly.
Really. What about you, Kristian?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard question, but I think, one book that definitely impacted me was Catcher in the Rye. And I know I didn't read that in high school. Our English teacher did not offer that one. So I read it just outside of high school. So I think it had a big impact on me because going through like adolescence, early into the early adulthood, reading about somebody who was, I identified a lot of characteristics with Holden, and I saw myself in him. And this was written back in the 60s, but to be reading it, I read it in like the 1990s, and a lot of it still held true. And I saw a lot of things that I was doing, or could do. It's a bit dark, but I think it hit with a lot of people who may have felt alienated or like an outsider, or you just didn't fit in, or you were aloof, didn't know where you were going. So I think it was just very reassuring to read that, and to read about somebody who was like you. And it's a great book. So
yeah, and is beautifully written too.
Yes, yeah.
The writing is just good. So what do you think right now, just currently in it, is a book that either you're seeing fly off the shelves or that you're recommending to people kind of without fail?
Oh, well, I'm super excited because the new Lauren Groff book came out. And that is the book that I will recommend to everyone this holiday season for sure. I haven't read all of her books, but I love historical fiction, and the way that she imagines the women in this book is just fascinating. Never knew I would care that much about nuns or a convent, but oh my goodness. And her writing is just, it's so good. So yeah, that's the one for me right now.
What are you seeing, Kristian?
Well, we're selling a lot of history. Currently I'm reading Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead.
I just picked it up. I'm so excited.
Cool. It's really good. It's a little bit of a crime caper featuring an everyman, kind of anti-hero, or reluctant criminal. So I'm going to recommend that one. I'm a great fan of his writing style, and this one is right up there. So.
Awesome. Well, you guys, thank you so much for, like I said, just providing me with like my favorite place on earth, and my book addiction was pretty much well stocked. My shelves are well stocked from from the Yankee Bookshop. So thank you for that, and for being also just awesome stewards of this historical institution, and how you're bringing it forward and really building community through the bookshop is just inspiring, and I'm grateful. Thank you for being on the show as well.
And thank you for having us. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks. And ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching Spark, the Upper Valley's new arts and culture program here on CATV. And don't forget to subscribe to CATV's YouTube channel. You can learn more about each guest and of course about Yankee Bookshop by visiting websites listed in the episode descriptions. Once again, visit catv8.org to sign up for the email list, to find links to the podcast and YouTube channel. And you can connect with us by emailing spark@catv8.org. Thank you so much to Kari and Kristian, and thank you for watching Spark.